Hello everyone, I'm MLP FiM. Welcome to my review on the 17th episode of the 7th season of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, also known as To Change a Changeling. I guess let's just get right into it. This episode, to me, was mostly good, but had a bit of sour taste in my mouth, at least because of one character in particular that I felt was a little useless. I think it had a really good character development for Starlight and Thorax, and even for this newly introduced character, Pharynx was meh. But Trixie, in my opinion, I don't know, we'll get to her later. Basically, the episode starts off with Starlight and Trixie wanting to surprise Thorax by visiting him and giving advice and comfort on how to be a leader, as we've seen him vent to Spike about in a couple episodes prior. And I'm glad that we have, literally in, the span of, 2 episodes, we have already a continuation of something that was alluded to us. And we are introduced to Pharynx, who obviously is still a black changeling, who is obviously still feeding off of hate, or at least isn't so bought on the whole, love thing and all the changing of the changelings. And my first problem, and I said this, I think, last week, or even, 2 weeks ago, why is there just one changeling that didn't change? Why is there just one that wasn't bought on the whole thing and was still a little stubborn, that they didn't change? I get how we see in this episode that Pharynx was the tougher one, and therefore he obviously was more stubborn than the rest, but there still should have been more. The whole point is that Thorax was explaining how, as, Grub, they really wanted to be a bodyguard. They wanted to be the stronger ones. Except for Thorax, who we saw was, as he was, different and kinder and softer and sweeter and more fragile. And basically, I just don't understand that. Because Pharynx is, at least throughout the episode, seeming like he doesn't like the hive. Where I understand that. It's the equivalent of moving to a new house. Pharynx's world has literally changed around him. It's a new experience, and he's not ready to move into it. So it's understandable why he's having these tough times, and while it's not good to pick on everyone and to bully them and to do all of the acts that we've seen him do throughout the episode, I understand his feeling of confusion and even anger, saying, why didn't you stay the way you were meant to be? Maybe he's just used to being bossed around by Chrysalis, which again, is totally normal. Basically, the episode revolves around Starlight and Trixie trying to help Pharynx, or trying to understand why people don't like Pharynx, and solving it. We're also introduced that there's a threat to the hive known as the Moleworth, who is this mole creature that is very strong and hard to beat and very high in defense. And basically, something that I predicted was that indeed Pharynx would end up trying to fight this Moleworth, although Pharynx points out that we need the entire hive and not just him. And basically, Pharynx understands that everybody doesn't like him and everybody wants him out, and he leaves, but he also protects the hive by trying to fight the Moleworth. Meanwhile, Starlight gives a speech to the Changeling hive saying, we know you don't like Pharynx, however, you do have a choice. You're not forced anymore like you were with Chrysalis, and this is Thorax's brother we're talking about, so basically saying you should help your leader's brother. In the beginning, they don't listen to Starlight's speech and they stay at the hive, but they end up joining and realizing that, Pharynx is a good guard and that Pharynx is useful. And I do like that. I like that, and I predicted it as well. I knew, Pharynx is still a guard. There are still going to be threats to the hive. They might not be a threat anymore, but that doesn't mean that other wild creatures won't be a threat to them. Again, I made a reference to Slice of Life with the whole, I think it was called the Bugbear or something like that. There are going to be threats, and Pharynx is a good guard. We also see that Thorax really is involved. What I like about Thorax that, I guess I could say I don't like about Celestia is that Thorax is involved. The hive is not as big as Equestria, so Thorax is able to be involved in all of the different activities and all the things, and they're really, they're nice things that, you could see, oh, it's a little too frou-frou, oh, we have these, arts and crafts and other things, But then you have something like the feelings forum, and it's like a vent chat, and then you like, group that you might be in on Skype or Discord. It's like a vent room, and I like that. It's really nice. To move on to the negative aspect of the episode, Pharynx, as I said in my reaction, acted like a young dog, pawing at things, being very annoyed and angry, although you could understand his confusion, like I said before. But he was still acting very mean, and he could have at least tried to respect the others, although maybe in his mind everyone else wasn't respecting him. Starlight had her moment where, yeah, she did lead the creature to the hive and didn't ask Thorax about it and didn't explain it to him, so that's a fault on her part. But Trixie. I know that this was meant to be a Trixie and Starlight episode, because they're now a pair. But Trixie could have not been in this episode, and it wouldn't have made a difference in my opinion. I don't think she really did much. She was just, she tagged along. She said something here or there that was a little, snippy. It was a little, and it got Starlight a little upset. The most she did, I think, might have been to go and do something for Starlight, but she didn't really do much herself. She would always be in the sidelines saying something like, oh yeah, I was going to volunteer, I was going to do this, so that's what I meant to say. Yeah, it's Trixie acting like Trixie, but I think we could use an episode focusing just on her. And not like we have had before with the bottling up feelings with Starlight. We need another episode, maybe even with Twilight and Trixie, where she matures. That being said, I'm not going to let it ruin the entire episode. Basically, the episode ends off with Pharynx changing. I actually would have rather him not have changed and just have remained, the black changeling, but still a bodyguard. But he did. Still has the black design, or the dark design. It's not the prettiest color palette, but I am interested in the fact that he also has the sort of, dual horns that Thorax has, and Thorax is supposed to be the leader. It's not like Thorax is a prince or anything, or a king, even though we had Queen Chrysalis. He's just, leader of the changelings. Pharynx is now the bodyguard. It seems like Pharynx is like the Luna to Celestia. He's like the second in command now, or at least, again, he's just the head bodyguard. So, once again, I'm glad for the continuity for 2 episodes prior. I think that it had a lot of character development, and that it had, a good speech for Starlight to show her leadership. I don't think that there was much of a moral for this other than to maybe appreciate what others are appreciating, and maybe even subtly to get used to a big change in someone's life. Because, once again, moving into a house, it's a different setting, especially if you're young. Again, Pharynx isn't young, but I think you understand what I'm getting at. That being said, please share your thoughts below. I'd really appreciate it. Once again, I'm Neil Connoisseur. I thank you for your time. If you'd like to keep up to date on my reactions and my reviews and my synopsises, subscribe and comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So I'll see you in the next video.